the OTP presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Farm Bureau is for those who make plans for everything except themselves. We make it easy and affordable for Tennesseans who don't have a group or employer plan. Visit fbhp.com to learn more. Thank you for joining this edition of the OTP. I'm Amy Wells. Rhett Bryan is here. Coach Mack is here. We're all in Indianapolis for the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine, which I believe very strongly is the greatest event of the year. And we have the opportunity to talk to so many people while we're here. That's what makes this whole thing so great. And we want to share those conversations with you. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time. We're going to get right to it. Here's our first guest, NFL Network's very own Daniel Jeremiah. Daniel Jeremiah, thank you so much for taking some time to hang out with us on the OTP. It's so good to see you in Indianapolis.
It's great to be here. I feel like your location maybe has changed a little bit from the last year that we were here. I feel like they're kind of spicing it up a little bit here.
It is. We're backwards. We're
Yeah.
on the opposite side of the room, and it's a little bit jarring, but we're seeing some new friends. We're meeting new people.
Yeah.
It's nice over here.
And you get a chance to monitor the exit with where you're located.
Of
here.
course.
You can see
Yeah.
who's ducking out, who's
Absolutely.
not working hard.
We're
Which
here.
teams want it? You know what I mean?
Right.
You guys
Feng
can
Shui
evaluate
has
that.
been rearranged.
Yeah, exactly. But it seems very on brand for this year's draft.
Yeah.
Because this draft class is a little bit different. It's a little bit strange. What have you noticed about this group? Because it feels different than in previous years.
Yeah, I think that, look, the elephant in the room is the sex appeal with draft is quarterbacks. And then secondary, it's probably wide receivers because those are the players that you watch on a Saturday and you're watching college football. The guys you notice and the guys that stand out to most fans is the guy throwing the ball and the guy catching the ball. And this draft isn't necessarily really, strong in that regard. So that's why people are, people have kind of, to be honest, have kind of ripped on this draft. Like, oh, what are you going to get? It's not a good draft. My whole thing is this is a starter draft. Like, there are starters. There is a long line of starters you can find in this draft. Guys you're not going to have to replace. You're going to plug them and play them and not worry about them for another 7-8 years at those spots. And there's a good group of those guys. And I would say at the top, at least position player-wise, I think there are two special players to me. Abdul Carter as a rusher with what he does is pretty dynamic and pretty special. And then Travis Hunter with all that he can do, and I'm fascinated to see his usage. But, we don't see a lot of those type of guys come into the league. So those are some fun pieces there at the very top.
The quarterbacks are an interesting group
Yeah.
because there's a bit of a debate over QB1, QB2. Different pundits say different things. Different analysts have put them in different places. I have a feeling this is a debate that's going to linger until April. We're just not really going to know until the first guy comes off the board. As it stands today, February 25th, who do you have in that QB1 spot, and tell me why?
Sure. Look, I think there's two quarterbacks that separated from the group, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And to simplify it, I would say you can go floor or ceiling. And to me, Shedeur has a little bit higher floor. He's more polished. You kind of know what you're buying with him. Someone who's going to be, efficient and accurate. Ball placement's really good. These are good qualities to have, by the way. But, arm strength-wise, not top-shelf arm strength. Not a ton of twitch, which sounds crazy to say, considering his dad, but just not a ton of twitch and movement, there. And then, he's got some habit things. He can clean up drifting and taking some sacks over the last couple years. You'd like to see that clean up. But I feel like you get him with the right pieces and protect him with an offensive line, he's going to operate efficiently. Cam Ward, to me, is ceiling and is upside. He has a lot of twitch in his body, a lot of twitch in his arm. The ball jumps out of his hand. When he decides to move, I'm not talking about as like a dynamic runner, but you get a free rusher, he's got enough twitch to be able to get away from him and avoid him and then make a play. So those are kind of more of those high-end traits. Now, he's loose. He plays really loose. It's gotten better throughout his career, but there's still moments where he's rolling right and you see the ball thrown across his body and you're going to go, what are you doing? You can't do that. But he's been able to dig himself out a lot of those holes because, of the talent that he has. So the way I changed looking at this thing over the last 5 or 6 years is in the AFC, there are so many cyborg quarterbacks in the AFC that you have to navigate around to get where you want to go, that if you go with the floor, 3 years from now you're going to go, you know what, good player, but he's not good enough to get us past these guys, the Josh Allens, the Mahomes, the Burrows, the Lamar Jacksons, the Herberts. I mean, that's the tip
lot.
of the iceberg there. So I don't want to make a selection that I'm going to have to replace 3 or 4 years from now. I'd rather chase the ceiling, and if I miss, guess what? I'm going to go chase the ceiling one more time.
That makes a lot of sense. You've worked the front office. You've been boots on the ground in this league, evaluating players. If you were with the Titans right now, what would you be excited about in this draft?
I'd be excited about the defensive line and knowing full well that that's already a strength of this team and some of the pieces that are in place. The way Sweat played last year was awesome. When you've got him and Simmons, that's a pretty good place to start. I'm just looking at it going, okay, we've got a lot of holes. We've got a lot of things we need to accomplish. I've got pushback when I've said this because people have said, well, people always say you can get the quarterback down the line, and that's not the way it works. There's no guarantees. I hear that. But then I also can give you about 8 different teams that have done that. I can tell you about Houston deciding to wait and then getting C.J. Stroud a year after waiting. The Bears trading out of the first pick, getting Caleb Williams the very next year. There's a lot of teams that have done that. And if I'm the Titans, I've got a chance, if I take Abdul Carter, to say, all right, I know we've got holes and we've got things we need to fill, but we are going to have one of the best defensive lines in the National Football League. And to me, outside of quarterback, it's the second most important position. It's hard pressed showing a dominant defense, coach. Maybe you can enlighten me on this, but show me a dominant defense in the history of this league that didn't have big time defensive line play.
Just check the Super Bowl we just watched.
100%. My favorite story about that. I was talking to a buddy with the Eagles, and he was talking to someone. I won't mention the team. I won't out the team, but this was in the off season, and he said, you know what? I think our front four stacks up pretty well with your front four. I know you got a great front four, but he said, I put our front four right up there. He goes, yep, you probably can. But you know what? We got 4 behind them that you don't have. That's the difference. We got 8 of them. You got 4 of them that you're confident about. We got waves. We got more of them. So I just think you can't have enough. You can't say, well, we've got a couple dominant defensive linemen. Well, you know what? I'm greedy. I want give me all of them. It's hard to be a bad defense with a dominant defensive line.
Well, I mean, and you saw it in the Super Bowl. I mean, I've lived it. You've lived it with the team that you were with. What's so important is, and they stuck with it. They rushed 4.
Whole dang game.
Rolled 4, yeah. Daniel.
Oh.
And then covered.
Yeah.
Covered with 7.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can do that, you're 4 over 3, 3 over 2. That's just the math.
Mm-hmm.
It was beautiful to watch. As a lifelong defensive dude,
yeah,
I loved it, and I know you did too.
I sent Jeremiah a text after the game because I didn't know if he was going to be aware of it. And full disclosure, Jim Washburn's son, Jeremiah Washburn, and Coach Max Snow and the family. I said, yeah. I just literally sent rushed 4 the entire game, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. I said, how sweet was that? I mean, that's your dream. If you coach that position, is to say, just let us do our thing with 4. We don't need anything else. He told me, we were talking afterwards, he's like, I don't know that we had a call that we didn't install day 1 of training camp.
Wow.
Like there was no frills. There was no, we're just going to line up and
just go. Yeah.
Wow. Dovetailing off of that.
Yeah.
The thing that we've put together, of course, you live this stuff. Edge rushers and the interior defensive linemen of this draft, that's the group, right?
Oh, my gosh. Coach, I had last year, I looked it up, and with the grading scale that I use, and it's what we learned in Baltimore, one of the grades is potential starter, right? So you have like role players backup and then potential starter, eventual starter, blah, on and on. Well, of like potential, like guys who have the potential to start, defensive tackles last year I gave out 12 of those grades. This year I gave out 24.
Wow.
Whoa.
24. Like I've never had a year where this many guys, and it's not wishing and hoping. It's not, he's 275 pounds, if he can put on 20 pounds. This guy's 360. If he can lose 40 pounds, this guy doesn't. These are all 6'3", 305, 315-pound guys, like scheme diverse, can penetrate, can hold up versus doubles. Like these are not pretend dudes. These are real dudes. Like there's a million of them.
I mean, that's so good to hear. Rhett and I, we put together a vertical and a horizontal board, and as we work through it, all of a sudden it just jumps out at you. When you start putting them in pods, I mean, those dudes, that's legit.
Yeah, they're legit dudes. And, the fun thing is in the college game, people can look at sacks and go, okay, this guy didn't know how to rush. It's hard to get to the quarterback in college. They have spread you from sea to shining sea, and the ball is coming out so fast. And so I think some of these guys, you're like, oh, this defensive tackle, we had 1.5 sacks or 2 sacks, and I'm like, look at my paper and I see the words block destruction like over and over and over. Like they're winning the battle. They can't win the war because the ball's gone. Well, the NFL, you get a little more opportunity to get home. So that's why I think you'll see even more from this group as they get to the next level.
One of the other needs the Titans have, and they have quite a few, but one thing Brian Callahan mentioned the very first press conference the day the season was over is that they need a right tackle.
Yeah.
Last year's draft loaded with top tackle talent in the top round and stuff throughout. This year different, and I'm the reason I'm asking this, we saw the Titans do this with Peter Skoronski at number 11 a couple of years ago. I think there's a lot of guys that played tackle in college, maybe don't have the length, and may move inside in this. Could we see more Peter Skoronski 2.0s in this draft?
Yeah, and I think that's, again, there's a lot of teams that have gone with that philosophy of they want to have 5 offensive tackles on their offensive line. So maybe some of these offensive tackles just didn't have the length to stay there once they got to the NFL. But they have, we call like left tackle feet. They've got the feet, then, okay, the length, that's fine. We'll kick him inside and off we go. And this draft has a bunch of those. It's not a great tackle draft. Like, it's hard, even in most years where it's it's hard to find starters at tackle outside the first round. They're just, it's the whole theory, the big planet theory. There's only so many of these guys walking around planet Earth that are this big and this athletic. So it's not, then this is one of those years where outside the first round, I think you're going to have to, have some patience here, more developmental type players that you can work with down the line. But I'd be wanting to address that in free agency a little bit, just to at least have a placeholder there and to buy me some time while I try and develop some of these young guys.
Well, and that's a little bit of an anomaly that last year was because there were dudes last year as offensive tackles.
That doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't. And that's why I say this year seems like, it's a little bit barren, but just comparing it to what happened last year. And so if you got one last year, you did a pretty good thing.
Yeah, 100%, Coach. And then, the other thing is you get the right offensive line coach, which there is in place there.
Yes.
Now all of a sudden you get a first-round player in the 4th round, but it's provided we can be patient with him for a year, a year or 2 years. And to me, that's why you have the luxury with an offensive line coach to chase the ceiling. You can go after some of these raw offensive linemen, and, hey, we're going to be patient. This is not a team that's going to win the Super Bowl next year. You earned the first pick. It wasn't given to you. So let's think about where this team is, and let's look at the 3-year mark. We're drafting guys who are going to be who we want them to be 3 years into this process.
With that mentality, this seems like a really good draft for the Tennessee Titans because there are some of those players that would warrant that top billing if they are chosen there. But there's also a lot of places where the Titans can plug some holes and get some real guys who can play at some premium positions, right?
Yeah, at premium positions. And I would say I think there's tremendous value in even some of the non-premium positions where, not necessarily it's the biggest need in the world, but you're going to get a running back. If you want to just add another guy into your stable in the 4th round is a really good player. You're going to get a tight end in the 4th or 5th round who's going to be a really good player. That's where you can find even some value in this draft is some of those positions that maybe aren't the high target, high value positions, but this year there's depth there. So defensive line, my goal in this draft, if I'm a team that's picking up there in the top 5, I would love to have 3 new guys in my defensive line room by the end of the draft. And that there's enough talent there to take you all the way through to the end where, if your defensive line coach isn't high-fiving you after this draft, you probably did it wrong.
Let me ask you something structurally, just the way you look at it, the way you look at this thing. When we started putting this together, every year's different.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it a while, so have you. Where do you think the belly of the draft is, just pod-wise, number-wise? 2 through 5, 2 through where do you think that is?
I think to me the sweet spot of this draft, Coach, is really like, and this is kind of a weird range, but 20 to 70.
There you go.
I think that's probably that sweet spot where I don't know there's a big difference between 20 and 70, but I think that is the grade that I have is like a 63 grade. There's just a sea of them. It's made it. To be honest, this is kind of off the beaten path. It's harder to stack players like vertically this year than any other year because they're so similarly graded. And it's like, well, I don't represent a team, so I can't tell you if I'd rather have the 6'3" safety or the 6'3" off the ball linebacker. So they're literally all the same grade. They're all starters you're not going to have to replace. Might not be Pro Bowl players, but they're going to be steady, solid, reliable, dependable players. 20 to 70 in this draft, you can find a ton of them.
Well, that's a great answer because when Rhett and I started putting our initial one together, that's kind of what you look at.
Yeah.
You look at it and you go, okay, this is a really important horizontal draft, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I don't think you're going to get altitude sickness this year, in terms of the talent up there at the top. But there's a lot to find there in that little sweet spot.
And, Daniel, is that why when we get to around that 20 spot in the first round, you'll see some interesting picks because it'll be maybe best player available type selection there, not,
what's going to happen, I already know what's going to happen, and this is I guarantee this is going to happen, is you're going to have a player get picked at 22. And then people are going to go, he wasn't on anybody's top 50. And then we go, but you know what? He's my 53rd player, and he had the exact same grade as the guy that I had at 20. So
there it is.
It's just flavor. It's just whatever you want.
Yep.
Daniel Jeremiah, we so appreciate you taking the time to get us fired up about this draft. This is going to be a good one.
Well, I need you to not pick number 1 next year. That's the thing. That's the goal.
That's our goal, too.
We go back to talking about who's going to fall to us. That's what we need to do next year.
There you go.
That'll be us next year. Thank you so much.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Whether you're buying or selling tickets to a Titans game or any live event in Nashville, SeatGeek is the place to do it. SeatGeek, the official ticketing partner of the Tennessee Titans, so Titans fans can fan. Home is the forefront of all we do. It's why we're so committed to caring for the places and spaces in which we work and live. Ashley, the official furniture provider of the Tennessee Titans. Little Caesars is the official pizza partner of your Tennessee Titans. Download the Little Caesars app and get your favorites delivered today. Delivery fees apply. Now, back to the OTP. Charles Davis joins us here on the OTP. Charles, we always love catching up with you,
guys
but
are so
especially in
sweet.
Indianapolis.
Oh, it's great to see you all. That's for sure.
Lovely to see you. We want to get your thoughts right off the bat on Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Played both ways in college, now officially listed as a corner. Why was that so advantageous for him to be listed as a corner entering this draft?
I don't know if it's advantageous as much as it is a declaration than anything else. Because some teams see him as a receiver. Some teams see him as a corner. The ownership's going to have to get involved in how they see him.
Yeah.
Right? Do I want him to score touchdowns? Do I need that for my information? I just think that the idea that he's going to go both ways at the level he did in college, I don't want to use the word folly, but let's just say I can't see it. It's a whole different world. It's a whole different game. I will say this. I'm beyond impressed. 111 plays per ball game.
Crazy.
And he was making plays deep into ball games, too. It wasn't that he made his plays in the first half and the second half he'd gas out and nothing would happen. He's knocking the ball free to keep him from scoring a touchdown to win a game. He's catching one late in the ball game to bring him back from a big comeback. I mentioned, you guys remember Gordy Lockbaum?
Sure.
Holy Cross. He was a two-way player. And I said it earlier today, and I just hope the Holy Cross people don't come for me because I meant it as a compliment. Gordy going both ways, but our pace of play, Coach Mack, it was a whole different ball game. We huddled on every snap. We took our time. We did this. 111 plays. I would imagine Gordy was playing 80?
80 maybe.
Right?
80 maybe, depending on how functional the offense was.
Right. And that doesn't mean I'm taking anything away from him. If Gordy had played and we were doing it at this pace, he would have done it at that pace.
No, that's 100% true.
It's a different deal. I just don't see him playing full time both ways. Maybe some packages one way or the other, but I think they're going to want him to specialize in one. Isaiah Simmons is the name that always comes to mind for me. He wasn't a two-way player. Remember him coming out of Clemson?
Well, sure.
But he was the one that we can play him here, we can play him here, and we can play him here, and he hasn't played anywhere yet.
Yeah, what is he? And that was the question then, and it remains it now.
Jack of all trades, master of none, couldn't settle in one spot. I would want to get Travis settled.
But let me ask you about Travis for a second because the receiver part of it intrigues me. The one thing I want to see him do this week is run the gauntlet.
Yeah, I think we all do.
And I think he'll do it well if he does it.
I think we all just want to see those things. Right now, he's such an exceptional athlete that he's beating people off of those things. Now, when you go up and Coach Mack's drawing up defense for you, and he's got some cats out there, especially when you call that cat defense, you got that cat, I got that cat, then we're going to see some things, right? See what he has to go along with it. I'm not betting against him. I'm just saying the refinement part of it because – when you go both ways and you're practicing, but you can't do everything, right? Something's going to slip. And when I say slip, meaning you just don't have enough time to hammer everything down. And he's such a great athlete on that level, he's going to win those battles anyway.
who are you looking forward to seeing test numbers that validate and confirm what the film has shown?
Ooh, boy.
Give me a couple
That's a good
names.
question.
Boy, that's a really good question. I want to see what Mason Graham does from Michigan in testing, because when I watch him come off the line of scrimmage, man, those hands hit people in the chest and people go flying backwards, and he's got a great low center of gravity. And I said wrestler, right? Yeah, wrestler. Shocker, right, Coach Mack?
Shocker.
Absolute shocker. He's one that I want to see because he flat out doesn't look it. Like, when he walks around here, you're not going to sit there and go, oh, that's the two-time All-American and what have you. Like, he doesn't present that way. But I can't wait to watch and see, because when I watch him play, he's more than a handful now.
Well, he's more twitched up than he looks.
Way more.
Than he looks in the flesh. He's more twitched up on the film.
There's no question about it. I mean, I just watching people. It's like, okay, good luck dealing with that, folks.
Yeah.
You know? Absolutely. And I will say this is just a little bit off the thing. What's the kid at South Carolina? Tonka Hemingway?
Yep.
I'm dying to watch him work out, because when I watch those plays with the Wildcat plays and things of that, he's catching Wildcat snaps. And normally those big guys, they catch them and we're going forward and we're creating a pile. My man sidestepping and evading and throwing a leg out and taking it away. And
Well, he jump cut.
I want to see this. He jump cuts.
He's
on.
jump-
We're not
he's
jump cutting. I want to see this.
Yeah.
We're not talking about J.J. Pegues in a fullback package and tush-push type deal here.
I'm
This
talking
is
about Tonka
different.
Hemingway.
Yeah.
And, shoot, he caught one on a fake punt, and he was fully covered, Coach. My man was like this.
Well, I had the hand in the basket.
Right? and my man threw out a paw and hauled it in. I was like, I got to see this kid. Dying to see him.
How about receivers? Let's look at receivers a little bit, because
Yeah.
we don't talk receivers much.
Right.
Because everybody's focused in on the quarterbacks.
Sure.
Everybody's focused in. This is a big man draft.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you know that. You're going to be on air for 100 hours. I mean, but the big men is
meat and potatoes draft.
Yeah, the big men is what it's going to be. How about? And I'm going to go down
Yeah.
the line here. Rhett and I have already got our first vertical and
I like
horizontal
it.
board
I
put
like
together
it.
here for you. So we'll open this up.
I'm
to
flying
you.
to Nashville and getting in on that next meeting.
You
Come
should.
Come on, Jaden Higgins from Iowa State.
Yeah, big Eastern Kentucky kid.
That's why I wanted you to hit on him.
Eastern Kentucky kid. Walt Wells had him. Walt Wells, an old Tennessee Vol. Walt had him. Had a nice chance to talk with Walt. Loves the kid. Loves everything about him. Said he's a full-on worker. Know what to him, and just knew he was too good there, that he needed to go and ply his craft. Said he's got everything you're looking for. The biggest thing is the 50-50 ball.
Yeah,
He'll go get it.
which it's become in this league.
That's what it
This
is.
is- this is-
It's
especially
hard to get away from people.
With guys that the guys that have that kind of length, it's throw it up their game.
Yeah.
It's a throw it up their game now, and you know that. I mean, you've played the defensive back part of it, and you know that.
If they see the back of your head, right, Coach?
It's coming up.
They're throwing it
It's
because
coming.
they're going to let the receiver
It's coming
make the
up.
play.
Jalen Royals.
Yeah, I saw him at the. We all saw him at the Senior Bowl, right? The kid
What'd
out of
you
Utah State. I liked him a lot. He was a guy that coming in, I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
And then every day I went, oh, he's pretty good. I don't know that he's a Blazer.
I don't think he is.
I don't think he's a Blazer.
But he's open.
But he's open. It's kind of. I'm trying to think of who I'm relating that to. Higgins a little bit that way, although I think Higgins is faster.
He's faster, I think.
But Royals, he just finds a way. I'll tell you who it was. The kid at Arkansas, Tesla.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Did he just keep making plays? Remember, he got the late invite to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
And then as the week went on, right, every time we turned around, I said, did he just catch another one?
He's just open.
And he's just open. And when he wasn't open, he created himself.
Every time I see guys like this.
Oh, by the way, Hillsdale College originally for Tesla.
See, that's
This is where we are now.
Well, but that's the truth.
Right?
Every time I see guys like this, and of course I can't help but go back to my personal experiences. I mean, I can't count the number of people that when I was making a decision I sat with, and, I really like this Bolden kid. Coach, you can't run. Coach, you can't. I said, he's open.
He's open.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for the others?
Well, he's open.
If he
I
can't
mean,
run.
So anyway,
If he can't run, what are they doing?
go ahead, Amy.
We mentioned, as we're talking about receivers, we had mentioned there's no big names, but there's still a lot of good talent in there. How beneficial is that going to be as this draft goes on?
It's going to be very beneficial. I've said it for years now, and I think I'm right on this one. if we're going to keep playing the game the way we're playing it, every year there are going to be a lot of receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will some be more sexier than others? Yes, but every year you're going to get a bunch of receivers that are going to come into the league and play. That's why I'm always telling guys, if you're the fourth receiver on your team, why don't you learn to backpedal? Because you have a much better opportunity to make it.
Numbers.
Yeah.
Flip it around.
Numbers.
Find something, right? Because somebody got to cover these guys.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to present themselves for these guys. Go try and do that. Terry McDaniel, who I played with at Tennessee, is a phenomenal example. He was a receiver.
Yep.
Couldn't get any
Yeah.
traction. Guess what? He became an all-pro corner.
Yeah.
Figured it out.
Yeah.
Charles, we saw Jack Besh steal the show
Yeah.
in the Senior Bowl.
That was something.
And what a wonderful moment. You know, he's named MVP a month to the day.
Yeah.
When
Crazy.
his brother Tiger tragically passed away in New Orleans. But there was a lot of guys I think got lost down there. And I know that you were a big part of the broadcast and all the things down there. I want you to give me some stuff on Elikiah Manor from Stanford.
I wanted to see him. I was excited to see him.
Yeah.
And then he left early.
He left
Right.
early.
He left early, but when you watch him play, you can see why he got invited.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's not like Canada isn't giving us receivers. I know that Claypool has kind of flamed out. But you
Yeah.
remember his rookie year and his
Yeah,
second
sure.
year in the league?
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
darn good, right?
Yeah.
Joshua Palmer is a Canadian kid. Came down and has played well. So we're getting guys who, you know, the athletes are around and available. And that's what I think about him. But I really wanted him around because in his bio, his mother was an arm wrestler as a kid.
What?
Now, you remember, what was it, 2 years ago with Bajan?
See, this is – just stop a minute.
You remember,
No, no.
you remember with Bajan?
This is why when you sit down and you listen and you sit with – I've had so many of these conversations with Charles Davis. Stuff comes up that nobody else knows. Go.
You remember?
Yes.
So you remember we were all there with Tyson Bagent and his
Yes.
dad, right?
Yeah.
And the dad took over Senior Bowl week, right?
Yeah.
He worked the mic like a WWE guy, and our guy Tom Pelissero got up there, and that's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
great.
Because the guy was working the mic. He's like, "Oh, just go ahead and submit, man. It's a lot easier for you if you just let it happen, right?" And so Tom was there, and I said, "Tom, this is the kid you've got to get." And I said, "Have you read the bio on him?" He said, "No." And I told him about the mom. He's like, "Oh, my God." He said, "You're trying to set me up and get beat up again." I said, "Yes, I am."
Yes, I
and then
am.
the
Here
kid,
for
and then the kid left. But it was too bad because he put up some performances now. Who was that he chewed up? I think it was Colorado.
Colorado.
Absolutely just chewed them up, like way over two for like 15 catches that night, and they upset Colorado that day.
Yes, they did.
So mom should be Armor Manor.
Yeah, I mean, I was just reading the bio. I was on the floor. I was like, "Oh my God, I've got to meet her."
All right, let's
incredible.
flip to defense for a moment because you were a defensive back and Titans have a need.
Allegedly, yeah.
Yes, you were.
Allegedly.
You were.
The Titans have a need at safety. There are some nice safety. I mean, we know about Malachi
Yeah.
Starks and Nick Amon-Wari.
Actually,
But-
wrote some guys down. Go ahead.
There's some guys towards the middle rounds of this that I think are beneficial, especially to the Titans in
Who
this.
you liking?
But, you know, I liked Upton Stout from Western Kentucky.
Good player, wasn't he?
He was.
Good player. Always around in the right spot. He looked under control in everything that he did. I thought he was very intelligent in how he went about playing the game. And you know who he reminded me of a little bit in watching them? The kid out of Maryland, Dante Trader.
Dante Trader.
I thought he and Stout were very similarly constructed and went about their business that way. And Trader, has got a lacrosse background. He's a midfield guy. The midfielder in lacrosse is the guy who controls the action. He's essentially your point guard and all that. Trader kind of played that way. You could see him take it all in and understand how it was going and how it was going to do. Kid was a monster recruit and played 1 year at Maryland, and I think he was like a third-team All-American.
Wow.
Yeah, he's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Going up a couple of pods and notches here.
Oh, yeah. Maxon Hook from Toledo.
Oh, yes.
Maxon Hook
Yes.
from Toledo. You know his old roommate was Quinyon Mitchell.
Oh,
They're
it is.
They're boys.
There it is.
This is what people pay money for.
Andrew
This type of
Makuba,
content.
Yeah.
Texas. College football playoffs. First time we had a 12-team playoff, so we always had more college football to digest and top guys.
How happy was Texas to have him at the end of the Arizona State game?
Oh, my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
But he's got that ball. I mean, we all say it all. He's got the ball hawk ability, and you saw it. I saw range. I saw him come over and make that play. Not as good as the one that, for me, Kyle Hamilton in that opener against Florida State is still the one for me.
Well,
especially with that.
You always talk about spatial awareness for defensive backs.
Right.
But the thing that separates them, and we all know this at this table, but just is can you hold your water at the catch point?
At the catch point. Moment of truth.
A lot of people get to the catch point and then they can't hold their water.
That panic high,
and
coach.
that bucket empties and it's over.
That panic's high, and that's when you run into people.
And there it is.
Flags out.
There it is.
But those guys who could hang in there. Yeah, I never could.
You know who I'm fascinated by?
I never once held my water.
You know what I'm fascinated by? You know, obviously Kevin Winston Jr. at Penn State was the guy, and then injury comes in. Here's Jalen Reed, who's basically a slot corner. They move him to full-time safety, and what does he do?
Tackles.
He led the team in tackles. He led the team in picks. That's a value pick.
They're doing something right there, because I know they can't beat Ohio State, and people are flipping out. And I say the same thing to my Penn State people all the time. I say, I know. Tell me who's beating Ohio State.
Exactly.
I mean, you guys are acting like this is the worst thing ever. You're acting like you're losing to, Penn State.
Directional state insert right here, right?
Yeah.
Right? that you're losing to, Penn State Harrisburg. No, this is Ohio State. This is tough to do. But look at the players that are coming out. Brisker came out of there as a safety not too long ago. Who's the kid with San Francisco? Brown. Another safety comes out of there. They've done a really nice job, as you would expect, coaching kids, putting them in the right spots, the whole deal. And then when kids get their opportunities, those who want it, they jump on it and off they go. Because you remember Kevin King came out of there, the corner, who we thought might have been a first rounder 2 years prior, turned out to be a seventh rounder. But guess what? He's in the league and he's playing.
He's still on the bus.
He's on the bus and he's playing.
He's still on the bus.
Coach, you wrote him in for your 53.
Yeah, he's still on the bus.
He's still there.
The other school that does that in the secondary, that year after year after year, is Iowa.
Oh, my God.
Yep.
Phil Parker for years, and you just start watching his guys, and let's go to the SEC real quick. About the Harrison kid, Maxwell Harrison from Kentucky. Oh, man. We got him. Thank God we got him at the Senior Bowl, because, he was hurt a lot of this year.
Right.
So thank God we got to see him.
That's why I asked.
Mad Max, and he had such a good week. He did what we get at the Senior Bowl. He got the Senior Bowl flu on Friday, and we didn't see him in the game. But he didn't have to.
He did what he did.
Yeah.
He stepped out.
He was good.
Yeah.
He was good. Coach, the build on him seems very slender.
But he's stacked.
He's stacked, right?
Stacked. I'm looking forward because, of course, I'm going to stay here the whole time.
He's like those country kids that you don't mess with.
No, he's like those
wiry ones.
Wiry is the description.
Those wiry ones, they will hurt
don't
you.
Mess with that.
Mess with
we call those
quiet wiry is a bad compliment.
Yeah.
If your description is wire rope, that's what you're looking for.
What you're looking for, right?
That wire rope, if they make restraining things on the highway yet.
That's a bad day.
Tie off a tugboat with it.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I think he's going to run a really good time.
Me too. And
you?
And did you get to spend a little time around him?
No.
He's got a nice personality. It's
Okay.
kind of infectious. He's one of those kids, and as a corner, you need that.
Charles, one of the many things that Brian Callahan said at the end of the year at his closing presser, we have to find a right tackle. Give me a couple of names that you're watching this week that might be able to help the Titans.
All right. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually wrote down a couple of them. The kid from Minnesota, Ariante Ursary.
Yep.
Okay. Emory Jones at LSU. We got to see him. I want to see what they do for all of you. Marcus Bowe from Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be a guard or a tackle?
Yeah, then that's what they're
trying to figure out, right?
They bumped him inside that week.
Bumped him inside that week, but he's played tackle for a lot of his college career. And the kid at North Carolina State who was a left tackle, Anthony Belton. I think you can move him over to right tackle and be just fine.
And I like that guy.
I don't think that's an issue.
He's a legit 360 pounds.
Now you want a monster, because I think Coach would have a ball trying to figure out what to do with him.
Yeah.
I don't know how good a player he is, but Hinton from Michigan. With that bloodline, that program, I would think hard about moving him inside and making him just a massive guard at 342, 345. I would think hard about doing that if I'm a team that wants to beat people up inside.
I mean, look, you've been doing this for a minute. You're spot on. That's exactly what's going to happen with him.
That's where he's going, isn't it, Coach?
But you look at the guys that have moved inside in this league, and especially the way it's going now, with people starting to run a lot more pin and pull stuff and a lot more just knock them off. I mean, you know how trends go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Peter Skoronski trend
totally
is real.
It's real.
Now it's going that way because people are attacking the cylinder now at that center guard triangle.
Yep.
You need dudes in there.
So let me ask you this, Coach. When he wakes up in the morning, did he ever think that Mekhi Becton, did he ever think in his life that he would give thanks that they moved him inside the guard?
The answer is absolutely not.
And now, if you tried to move him back to tackle, he'd fight you to the death.
And this is the same guy as a Jet that wore the shirt that said, I am a
left
tackle.
Yep.
Adamantly.
His career has changed.
Well,
his
he has a new lease on life.
It changed his whole life.
Changed his whole life.
And he's going to make a bunch of money.
He's going to make a lot of money. He's going to be a 10-year veteran now. He's already got one ring, and he's going to, compete for more. But everything changed for him because he was this close to bouncing, and everybody was done with it. They brought him in to be a swing tackle.
Very close to bouncing.
Right.
And not only a swing tackle, a maybe guy.
A maybe swing tackle.
Now he's got a front seat on the bus.
They brought him in to compete for the swing tackle spot, a former first-round
got him
pick.
for nothing.
Got him for nothing, and now he's going to be
1.6, I think.
Now he's going to start at guard.
18 a year now, 20, whatever.
Nothing wrong with it. I'll leave it at this, guys, because I'm taking you way too far. But Robert Gallery, Coach.
Hey.
Right? Because the problem was, especially way back when we were doing it then, if you drafted a guy at left tackle.
That's where he had to be.
And if he didn't make it at left tackle, then he was a bust.
That's 100% right.
And Robert Gallery was not a bust.
No.
They moved him inside the guard. He was a 10-year veteran guard who was a really good football player. Probably should have been a guard from day one. But we drafted him at left tackle at number 6 overall. And everything changed.
Nothing that changes with you.
Man, it's so great to see you guys.
Great to
Charles,
see you
thank
too,
you
Charles.
so much for
Thank
hanging
you
out
for
with us
having
a little
me.
bit.
This is awesome. I wish I could just stay here.
You can.
Can I?
Blow off all these other people.
Alex, we're just staying here. We're not going anywhere else. This is it. You tell everybody else I'm done.
Hey Titans fans, with a Kroger Boost membership, you'll score big with double fuel points, free delivery, and lots more. Go to Kroger.com/boost for details. Kroger, the official grocer of the Tennessee Titans. Tighten up. The OTP, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. When it's game day for your health coverage, trust Farm Bureau Health Plans to draw up a winning play for you. They've been covering Tennesseans for nearly 80 years. Now, back to the OTP. That'll do it for this edition of the OTP. Thank you for joining us. For Daniel Jeremiah, Charles Davis, Rhett Bryan, Coach Mack, I'm Amy Wells, thanking you for listening to the OTP.